Momentum and the interrogation. 1. Questions arrive dressed as light. They claim to clarify. They present themselves as tools of understanding, as keys that open doors, as lanterns carried into dark rooms. Civilization praises them. Education trains them. Therapy deploys them. Journalism weaponizes them. Faith sanctifies them. Science refines them. Yet questions do not move forward. They turn the body. A question bends motion inward. It arrests stride. It converts momentum into examination. It is not a step. It is a pivot. This is not a flaw. It is geometry. A question is a hinge. 2. Action runs on propulsion. It does not require completion of inquiry before it begins. Children move before they understand. Artists compose before they explain. Workers build before they theorize. Musicians play before they name the scale. Forward motion depends on partial sight. Questions demand fuller sight. There is a tension here. Not moral, not psychological, structural. Propulsion and interrogation do not share the same vector. 3. Reflection is retroactive. It pulls from what has already occurred. Even anticipatory questions rely on memory. What will happen is always asked from what has happened before. Thus, every question is rooted in the past. Even the most visionary inquiry drags behind it the weight of precedent. Questions are archival in nature. They catalog before they project. Momentum does not catalog. Momentum risks. 4. Institutions elevate questions because institutions prefer containment. A body that asks pauses. A mind that interrogates hesitates. A society that questions regulates. There is virtue in this. There is also friction. A system that asks endlessly does not move swiftly. A culture that prioritizes interrogation over creation becomes analytic without being generative. The paralysis of over-questioning is not ignorance. It is saturation. 5. There exists a moment in any forward movement when questions feel like rope. Not because questions are malicious, because they redirect force. Energy flowing outward into making must suddenly reverse polarity. The hand building must become the mind evaluating. The foot stepping must become the head calculating. That shift costs. 6. Questions are not neutral. They imply deficiency. To ask is to announce lack of knowledge, lack of clarity, lack of certainty. This is honorable in moderation. It becomes corrosive in excess. When every motion is interrogated, confidence thins. When every instinct must justify itself, instinct atrophies. The creature that must constantly explain its movement eventually forgets how to run. 7. Yet to abolish questions entirely would be catastrophe. History provides sufficient evidence. Movements without inquiry calcify into tyranny. Innovation without reflection collapses into chaos. Desire without examination mutates into compulsion. Questions are brakes. Brakes are not enemies of speed. They are regulators of catastrophe. 8. The conflict, then, is not between wisdom and ignorance. It is between propulsion and inspection. Both are necessary. Neither should dominate perpetually. A body cannot sprint and dissect its stride simultaneously. A builder cannot lay brick and audit the blueprint at the same time. Timing matters. 9. Silence is the territory in which motion regains its rhythm. Questions fragment attention. They divide consciousness into observer and actor. Silence reunifies them. In silence, movement proceeds without commentary. The hand moves because it knows how. This is not anti-intellectualism. It is respect for embodied intelligence. 10. There is a psychological phenomenon in which a person becomes fatigued not by labor, but by evaluation. Decision fatigue, cognitive load, analytical drag. Questions increase cognitive load. Each question demands sorting, comparison, scenario modeling, consequence mapping. This is metabolically expensive. The brain consumes glucose in disproportionate quantities during sustained analysis. Forward action, once initiated, consumes less cognitive energy than constant reevaluation. Motion, paradoxically, is efficient. 11. The modern world saturates life with inquiry. Metrics, feedback loops, performance reviews, comment sections, polling, analytics dashboards. The human organism exists in perpetual assessment. How is it going? What does this mean? What is next? Why? An unbroken chain of inquiry produces interior noise. Noise exhausts. 12. To move without question for a time is not regression. It is recovery. A field left fallow does not cease to be fertile. It restores nutrients. It rebuilds structure. It prepares for the next planting. Periods of unexamined motion serve a similar function. They allow instinct to reassert authority. They allow muscle memory to govern. The body remembers how to build long before the mind narrates it. 13. There is danger in confusing interrogation with depth. A person can ask endless questions and never commit. Inquiry becomes camouflage for avoidance. Questions can delay responsibility. To ask what is the right thing indefinitely is to avoid doing anything. Action reveals alignment faster than speculation. 14. The healthiest relationship between motion and inquiry resembles breathing. Inhale, question. Exhale, act. Neither phase sustains life alone. Continuous inhalation suffocates. Continuous exhalation collapses. Rhythm is intelligence. 15. The suspicion that questions are the only path to insight is culturally reinforced. Yet many of the most enduring works of art were produced in defiance of overanalysis. The maker acted first. The critic arrived later. Creation precedes commentary. The soil does not ask what kind of tree it will grow. It receives seed and responds. 16. Stillness that emerges from exhaustion differs from stillness that emerges from choice. One is depletion, the other is calibration. When questions become weight rather than tool, calibration is required. Not rejection of inquiry, but reordering of sequence. First build, then assess, then build again. 17. There exists a kind of trust deeper than explanation. It is the trust of movement itself. The step trusts the ground before it has proof. The voice trusts the breath before it has analysis. Questions test trust. Excessive testing erodes it. A bridge inspected every second cannot be crossed. 18. In communities, questions often serve as connection. They signal interest. They demonstrate attention. Yet even relational inquiry must respect timing. A person in motion may not be available for excavation. There are seasons for dialogue. There are seasons for labor. Confusing them breeds resentment. 19. The binary between action and inquiry dissolves under maturity. With experience, questioning becomes lighter. It integrates into motion rather than interrupting it. The craftsman does not halt entirely to inspect each cut. Awareness accompanies the blade. This integration takes time. Until then, separation is sometimes necessary. 20. Questions are instruments. Instruments can tune or wound. A scalpel in surgery heals. In chaos, it harms. The value lies not in the blade, but in its application. To refuse questions temporarily is not ignorance. It is boundary. To reintroduce them deliberately is discipline. 21. Human beings oscillate between exploration and consolidation. The explorer asks. The builder lays foundation. Civilizations cycle through these modes. So do individuals. When exploration dominates, fragmentation occurs. When consolidation dominates, stagnation sets in. Wisdom discerns the phase. 22. There are moments when the honest answer to every inquiry is uncertainty. I do not know is not weakness. It is a recognition that the analytic faculty has reached its limit. In such moments, further questioning adds no clarity. Action must resume. 23. The relationship between questions and motion is not adversarial. It is choreographic. Each leads at different times. Each yields at different times. Problems arise when either refuses to yield. Relentless inquiry without execution breeds fatigue. Relentless execution without reflection breeds ruin. 24. The modern psyche suffers not from lack of questions, but from lack of intervals between them. Continuous interrogation erodes coherence. Silence restores it. In silence, answers sometimes surface unbidden, not because they were forced, because they were allowed. 25. The ultimate tension is not between questions and action, but between control and trust. Questions seek control. Action requires trust. Control reduces uncertainty. Trust tolerates it. Life demands both. 26. There comes a point in any cycle when the only viable movement is forward, without commentary, without justification, without audit. The hammer must strike. The string must vibrate. The road must be taken. Inquiry can wait. It always does. 27. When questions return at the right hour, they refine what was built. They strengthen structure. They prevent collapse. They honor craft. But when they intrude upon the birth of motion, they distort it. The art lies in sequencing. 28. Thus the true opposition is not action versus inquiry, nor silence versus speech. It is timing versus mistiming. Well-timed questions illuminate. Poorly timed questions deflate. Well-timed action builds. Poorly timed action destroys. 29. To live well is to sense the phase, to know when to interrogate and when to proceed, to understand that both are servants, not masters. Questions are not sovereign. Neither is motion. 30. In the end, the mature stance does not worship inquiry nor idolize impulse. It honors rhythm. It recognizes that forward thrust and reflective pause are partners in a long choreography. And when one grows heavy, the other carries the weight. Period.